Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into a story that truly defines the word resilience, but with a twist so haunting, it'll stay with you long after the video ends. Imagine a world plunged into darkness, the roar of cannons replaced by an eerie silence. December 1945. The war, we're told, is over. But high up in the desolate ruins of an old radio tower, perched precariously on the edge of a war-torn Europe, one man, one lonely man, hadn't heard the news. This is the story of Sergeant Elias Novak, a radio operator with the 3rd Infantry Division. When Allied recovery teams finally reached his remote post months later, they found him frozen, still at his station. What they uncovered next wasn't just a soldier, but a legend. A man who refused to surrender, even to silence itself. He sat there, surrounded by the ghosts of broken dials and shattered glass, clinging to a war that, for him, simply refused to end. This isn't just a tale of survival. It's a profound reflection on hope, isolation, and the echoes we create for ourselves. Now, rewind a few weeks before the official end of the war. Elias's unit had been ambushed, a brutal, swift attack. He was the only one who made it back to the tower, tasked with guarding the last working transmitter. The others, they never made it out. So, he stayed. Every single night, he sent out coded messages into the void. Requesting supply drop. Coordinates 50 centimeters north. But the silence that followed was deafening. No one replied. Days turned into weeks. Food supplies dwindled, then disappeared. The generator coughed its last breath, and fuel turned into nothing but fumes. Elias, resourceful and desperate, burned ration boxes for warmth, the flickering flames a stark contrast to the endless cold. He boiled dirty water through his helmet, a grim ritual of survival. And in the dim, dying light of his lamp, he started carving tallies onto the crumbling walls. 21, 22, 23. Each mark a testament to the days he'd been completely alone, waiting for a reply that never came. He was truly isolated, a solitary beacon in a world that had seemingly forgotten him. His routine became an act of sheer will. Each morning, Elias would scour the bombed-out landscape for anything useful. He'd scavenge copper wire from the guts of bombed-out tanks, pry batteries from the wreckage of downed aircraft, always trying to keep his lifeline to the outside world active. Hunger pushed him to extremes. He learned to eat candle wax, scraping rust for iron, even chewing on ancient bitter coffee beans he'd found in a shattered ration tin. Every hour, like clockwork, he'd tune his radio, his ears straining, listening for any sign, any friendly voice amidst the static. What he didn't know, what he couldn't possibly know, was that no one was listening anymore. The war had ended 3 months ago. The world had moved on, but Elias was still fighting. Then, one night, as the wind howled like a banshee through the skeletal ruins of the tower, his receiver crackled to life. A faint voice, almost a whisper, sliced through the static. "Hold position. We're coming." His eyes, wide with disbelief and renewed hope, fixated on his notepad. He scribbled down the coordinates, the message, his hand trembling. For the first time in months, a genuine, hopeful smile touched his lips. He was saved. What Elias couldn't realize, was that the transmission wasn't from a rescuer. It was his own voice. His words, bounced off the towering mountains, returned to him through the storm, an echo of his own desperate pleas. This moment, this strange echo, ignited a new obsession within him. Elias became convinced that a rescue team was indeed moving closer. answering his distress calls. He meticulously cleaned his transmitter every single day, carefully retuning the dials, sending out new coordinates with fresh hope. Each night, he meticulously logged more and more replies, the echoes growing clearer, stronger, until he started to answer them like old friends, like trusted comrades. To him, the war wasn't over. It had simply gone quiet for a while, and now communication was being reestablished. He was part of a secret network, a ghost network of his own making, believing he was part of something bigger than his own solitude. Between his frantic transmissions, Elias found solace in one precious artifact. A letter from his wife, Lydia. He read it over and over, the words etched into his memory. "Promise me," it said, "you'll come home when it's safe." He kept it beside his transmitter, tucked carefully under a cracked photograph of her smiling face. Sometimes, when the loneliness became too much, he'd read the letter aloud into the mic, pretending she could hear him, his voice cracking with emotion. "Lydia, it's me. I'm still here. Don't worry." And the static, a soft, sympathetic sigh, was his only reply. It was his way of keeping her close, of keeping his promise alive, even in the bleakest of circumstances. Winter descended, burying the tower in a thick blanket of snow. Elias's body, ravaged by hunger, began to shake uncontrollably. The generator finally died, leaving only the chilling hum of the radio, a ghost of its former self. Then, one morning, the voice came again, clearer than ever. "Hold on. We're close." This time the words broke him. Tears streamed down his gaunt face. He gathered his remaining flares, his last vestiges of hope, and struggled to the roof. With shaking hands, he fired them, one by one, into the gray, empty sky, bright streaks of red against the snowy vastness. He waited. He watched. But no one came. Only the sad, distant echo of his own flare, echoing across the silent, indifferent valley. On the 89th day of his vigil, Elias made his final entry in the logbook. His handwriting, once precise, was now a shaky scrawl. "Battery failing. Still holding position. Awaiting orders." He pressed the transmitter button one last time, his voice a hoarse whisper into the microphone. "This is Sergeant Novak. Is anyone receiving?" Static. Then, an absolute, profound silence. He gently removed his headphones, setting them neatly beside the radio, a final act of soldierly order. He simply stared at the horizon, his gaze unwavering, until the light faded completely, swallowed by the encroaching darkness. Months later, the Allied recovery teams finally reached the outpost. It was a desolate, frozen shell of a building. Inside, they found Elias, still at his station, his hand resting peacefully on the transmitter. His logbook was filled with hundreds of transmissions, meticulously recorded, sent long after the war had ended. And curiously, amidst the jumble of his desperate pleas, a pattern emerged in the radio waves. His own messages, replayed back to him, like ghostly reflections in the air. Engineers later explained the phenomenon. The unique topography of the mountain range had acted like a giant echo chamber, trapping Elias's signals and bouncing them between peaks for weeks on end. Elias, the valiant radio operator, had been talking to himself all along. The soldiers who found him called him the last signal. His story, a poignant testament to unwavering belief, spread like wildfire among radio operators across Europe. It became a legend, whispered during long, lonely shifts at remote outposts. Some claimed, on quiet nights, when the static was just right, they could still hear his voice, a faint whisper through the crackle. "This is Sergeant Novak, holding position." In the chaos of war, communication was everything. It was life itself. And when the entire world went silent, one man kept speaking, kept transmitting, holding on to the belief that somewhere, someone, still heard him. His final words weren't a desperate cry for help, not really. They were a promise to his unit, to his wife, to himself. Holding position until someone answers. A truly moving tale about the indomitable human spirit, even when faced with the most profound solitude. Thank you so much for joining me today for this incredible story. If Elias's tale resonated with you, please give this video a big thumbs up, share it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories that explore the human experience. I really appreciate your support. Until next time, stay curious.